Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back, boys, to another video. Yeah, today it's Salty Mike, and I'm looking to see what his take is on master modes, which I'm hoping is interwoven into this video of his. He's looking at the Yogi post on Spectrum. Again, I've told you guys I've considered doing videos about some Spectrum threads and stuff just to see what it's like. Maybe I'll do it in the future, but this kind of ticks two boxes of mine, which is I really want to know what Salty Mike thinks of the whole shebang. And I obviously want to cover the Yogi post. So should be interesting. I also heard I get mentioned at some point in this video, so that'll be cool. But let's see what we think. Make sure you guys throw up a thumbs up and a comment in the video to help me outplay this algorithm. Yeah, the algorithm boss. Give me a 1, 2, 3, etc. But let's see how we go.
I think this is definitely worth a look. So there was a there was a post on Spectrum asking, request for Yogi, can you make a video showing us what Master Modes combat should look like? And there are a lot of people saying a lot of bad things about Master Modes.
Yep.
And let me tell you something. There's a lot of people who disagree. Well, not a lot of people who disagree about it. It's hard to tell who thinks it's good and who thinks it's bad. Now, before I get into any of this, the one thing that I think everybody should be saying is what they think. Good, bad, or ugly. As the way I am and the type of streamer that I am and the type of person that I am, no matter what, you should say what you think on these things. Right? No matter what. So the people who are like blasting it, good. There's a thread that has like tons of upvotes and stuff on it. I question if those upvotes are legitimate because it's so many. I've never seen that many before. So part of me thinks that it's like a section of the community that...
The problem is, like, it's year 12, and you're, like, imagine building a God of War game, yeah? Or a MMO, of any, like a fantasy Dungeons & Dragons MMO, and you decide to do the actual version of combat and movement at year 12. It's just, like, it's ridiculous that we're even here, and that's what bothers me, like, a lot about this from an overall theme. It's like, why have we had 5 different flight models? Why have we had so many different iterations of the game? And then we're talking about the game releasing both the MMO and the single player, and we are this far away from enjoyable and sensible combat, yeah, and flying of spaceships. Like, it's just crazy. Like, where have we got from the last 10 years of flight and combat in the game and weaponry and stuff? You know, like, why are we patching this up and rushing to get this done at the very end? I just don't get it. Like, you build like a God of War game, for example, and before you even add color to the game, they've got combat down pat. By the way, I watched a documentary on God of War development, so that's why. But yeah, it's just ridiculous that we're even here, I think. You know, and I think it's gross mismanagement, and it's just frustrating, you know? Like, we could have had combat that, you know, was perfected over 10 years, but instead it gets knocked down every time and then built back up, and we have to keep waiting for them to keep adding it brick by brick. So I am frustrated with this loop that we seem to be in.
Is hating on it and brigading that post to make it seem more popular than it is. But I also see so many people say it's bad. So I believe that to be true, but I have the little doubts in my mind that it's being brigaded. Little doubts. And that's fine. That doesn't take away from the things that were posted. Because the people who wrote posts wrote what they thought, and it was meaningful, and it matters, because that's what they thought. Right? Some people like it, some people don't. It is what it is. It's idiotic for them to make a video about what it should look like, and he touches on it right at the beginning. It doesn't matter what they think; it matters how we play it, and then they adjust based off of that. They try to steer us in a certain direction due to design and tunings, but they can't solve all that problems. If I like it or not is, I have not played it enough to make an opinion. I don't think that I'm comfortable with speaking about. So the people who have written these big things, if they have given it enough time and aren't just reacting to it too quickly, then yeah, that stuff is super valid. I don't know if they can see like how much time people have played or whatever, right? Has Dev ever dropped a video on?
I can't talk about this because the NDA stuff, but they made some exclusive master modes threads in regards to ship and ship roles, and they time gated it by how much time you've got in master modes so that the players who aren't playing it aren't commenting on it. Greasy Khaleesi is a great example. So yeah, like they're definitely looking at that, and I think they're definitely recognizing that some of the feedback is just people drama mongering. So I agree, but it's also a lot of it, majority of it would be credible complaints. And it's the same for the people that are pro master modes, right?
Request? No, of course not. Have devs done anything on request of the community here? Not really. And then they say, we try to steer players in a certain direction due to the design and tuning values, but whether it works could not even be properly evaluated with experimental modes, which we had online and master modes for 2 whole reasons. It can only be seen once we play test it with a wide user base that has very different capabilities, hardware, equipment, and play styles. And this is exactly what we're doing right now by pushing the changes to 323. I think the reason why you ask your question is because you're unhappy with the current state of the polish. And you know what? I would agree. And that's the big thing here, is they also agree. Everyone's kind of freaking out like this is the fundamental change to master modes means that it's going to stay largely this way. It could change, but the reason people are upset is because of Star Citizen's history. We've already been through this twice.
More than twice. Yeah. There's definitely some truth to that. And then like reading this, I understand that CIG aren't happy with the current state. But like what's frustrating me is that the live master modes experience, which was iterations in the past, was actually more enjoyable than what we have now. And I really need to make a new video on this. I do. I'm burnt out of the free QA play that they're getting from me. I'm a bit burnt out of playing it so much. And not to say I'm not supportive of it. I am. I'm just a bit tired, that's all. But like I do feel like it's going in a worse direction now. I genuinely do, because like I said, the live master mode experience was better. Now, mind you, it was isolated to a few ships, but the introduction of some of these new weapon types, the new time to kill, some of these ships, these outliers that can't really fit into a role, like the F8, the Hornet, F7C, Mark II, like some of these other ships that have come into play and then taken advantage of their huge hard points on their ships, combined with the new weapon types, which is cannons. You can get 2-shot nowadays. Like if you were in a Buccaneer, for example, you can get 2-shot by an F8, meaning bang, bang, you're dead. Like quite literally. So there is an issue with stuff like that for sure. And I've been pro cannon gameplay, absolutely. But the problem is, and it's like I've hummed on so much, I keep mentioning this in all of my podcasts, all of my videos, is that it feels like they're accommodating flight, or they're bending flight to the weaponry. And it's like the weaponry should be decided last, because every change you make to flight is going to then impact the weaponry and the time to kill, etc. So like time to kill, damage application should be decided at the end, because we have a huge flight problem in the game. And my complaint is the same complaint I've had. I've been pretty consistent with it. The 2-speed system is a very ugly and broken system. Like it's very brutish, it's very ugly, it feels gross to be constantly up against a cage. It's like you're in a cage and then you're just leaning on one of the walls all the time, you know, whether you mean to or not. Your forward strafe has no meaningful control or direction change, so it just, like, if you're drifting to the left, you're just drifting a little left and a little forward at the same time, but it's not arresting any momentum that you do. Coupled is just not viable. You get smoked by doing it. It looks like you take double damage. The feeling of merging and pursuit is gone for the most part. The time to kill is just way too short. People are just getting smoked. The gameplay, it's like they ticked the boxes, right? Like, we needed the group fights to work. We needed the squadron feeling to make sense. We needed all these archetypes to be able to play on the same football field and be in the same sport. But the problem is they've done such a good job of that they've missed or forgotten about some of the best dopamine and the best moments you can get from the game that we've had for the last 12 years. You can't push, you can't get an angle. There's nothing more important than landing shots on your guns. There is no other damage. There's no other option to a duel. It is who wins the DPS race and nothing more. There's no creativity in flight. There's no evasion. Again, you can't close distance on someone that's looking to break distance. There's just many issues with flight. Yeah, it's just not fun. And I say it's not fun long term, right? Like, the thing is, Master Modes is a great 10 to 20 hour experience. You play it for 10 to 20 hours, you're going to have a great time because you've gotten into it. You're having fun, you're being effective, you're getting the experience. But then the second you guys get, and I think this is going to be the case with majority, right? Except for the people that enjoy PvE content, etc. But once you get past the 20-hour experience, then it really starts. It's like, oh, well, is there nothing else? Like, how do I get even better than this? How do I get skillful at the game? And there's just nothing beyond that. So it's like, there's all these ships, there's all these weapon types, there's all these components, but and so it's like widespread, but the depth is a puddle. Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's going to last past a 20-30 hour experience. And there's some games that are like that, right? It's like Battlefield is a very simplistic game. It's fun. You get in there, you're overwhelmed with everything that's going on, and then you figure it out, and then you're off it, 20-30 hours in, because you feel like you've played the whole thing. That's very much like Master Modes here. So I just think that you need to be able to push skill a lot further. You need to be able to push flight a lot better. I think they need to unshackle a lot of the flight, and let players be creative. Like, for example, if you are in a medium fighter or a heavy fighter, like, your only option in a scenario target on target, meaning like two targets fighting each other, is to just reverse. You have nothing else up your sleeve. And there's just like a lot of issues with that. Like, they really need to nail down the flight. They need to nerf the shit out of the gunnery, because the gunnery has replaced their flight entirely. Like, I made a tweet about this. It's 95% weapons and 5% flight. And I'm very, very much concerned. 1v1s are the worst they've ever been, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to say this to be like negative. I want to be honest so that we can, with my feedback, and I want everybody to be honest with their feedback so that this thing can get better. And and it's great. It's very welcoming. It's ticked the boxes of, we need to get more players into this. It has done that. It has ticked the boxes of squadron compositions and roles now fit into this. And it now makes sense, but it has to get way more fun than this. It has to get deeper. And deeper doesn't mean that we need to stray away from all these great things they've done, but we need to add so many more layers to this. Okay, there has to be way more layers to this, truly, because it's got to get fun. There's got to be skill to this. There has to be depth to this. And they've like the biggest one is they have to add more flight to this. The 2-speed system, which is the bubble within a bubble, is not working. It ain't. And it's not working by a little. It's not working by a lot. So that's my complaint. But like, people ask me, they're like, oh, but you're so pro master modes. I am. I'm very much pro and supportive of it fixing all of those issues that existed before this flight model. I'm absolutely a huge fan of the fact that all these ship and archetypes work now and the bigger picture can be realized. But now that we're here, now that we've reached that destination, which thank God we have, because that's been the problem of the last 5 years, now we've got to recapture all those great things about live. And I don't think it's as much as some tunings. Like this thing, like flight, the 2-speed system, the unboosted and boosted, needs to change drastically. Like, I think drastically. Otherwise, it's going to be a very placid experience. It's going to be very, yeah. It's like, I don't want to use the same terminology as the people that are, getting really angry about it, but it feels very arcadey because there's just no depth, almost. So, but again, big fan of the team, big fan of the developers. Glad that they realized this, but I want it to grow far. I want it to grow far more than it is.
And that is absolutely true, Game Overture. Master Mode deniers refuse to acknowledge the fundamental design flaws it fixes. Now, I think I literally closed Twitter when I saw this post, not because I was angry about it or anything. Let me just search for it because I don't see it anymore. This is from Virgil, regular on the show.
Yeah.
And arguably one of the best pilots in the world. With 323 around the corner, Star Citizen, here's my current opinion of things. Master Mode solved the issue of fights not reaching a conclusion, but the experience is numb and placid. I think he means flaccid.
No, I meant placid, which just means lacks activity. There's not much going on besides the big picture. Funny to pull up my tweet, and I did make that tweet. It's it should have been a video. It should have. I guess I'm taking a break from Star Citizen, but I'm not. Like, I still play an hour, 2-3 hours a day. I'm still pretty good at it, despite being a lot better in the past, and I'm gonna really tune it back up soon. But yeah, I'm just a bit burned on it. Like I go to, like, I was doing 8 hours a day almost in the live Master Modes iteration, which is in 322. And you could push it further. Like, there was a lot more skill in that model than it was this, surprisingly enough, than what we have right now that's about to ship with 323. But yeah, that's the problem. It's like you get 10 shots off with your cannon. If you hit those 10, it's over. And that's it. Like, there's nothing to it. It's like, you ask the guy that you just fought what he's doing. He's just like, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to shoot at the hoop. And it's just like, you're just trying to shoot at a pip. First to 8 wins. That's it. Like, there's nothing else to it. You have no recollection of any maneuvers you did. You attempted no positional combat. You didn't try to get close. You didn't try to back up. You didn't try to do anything. There was nothing in anyone's game plan besides first to 8 wins. And I mean 8 shots landed. So it's like, that's it, and these fights are so quick now. Like, these duels are so small, they're so quick, and like, small TTK can be great if you can compare it to a long TTK. Like, so a good example is, like, say I outposition you and get shots off on your engine, which then disables you, makes you a sitting duck, and then you die. So I got that short TTK because I outplayed someone, or someone outplayed someone, whatever, right? Then it's a great thing. But if it's just face-to-face short TTK, then it's kind of a very dorky experience. And yeah, it just feels, I'm very numb to it. There's no dopamine to be extracted. There's no excitement in a duel. There's no creativity. There's no seeing anyone that's extremely impressive. Like, I don't feel impressed in the slightest by the hardest to beat player right now. Like our best players in our organization, if you were to ask them, you know, what's your strategy? I don't know. It's hit the guy before he kills me. It's land 8, it's over. It's like that every time. So it's just a very numb experience. There's not much fun in PvP right now. But again, it ticks all the boxes we needed it to tick that live would broken. But again, it's just got to get way better than this.
I don't know. PvP has to get more exciting than this. 95% aim, 5% flight. The depth of a puddle, not good. This is somebody who has defended the shit out of it. Right? This is somebody who's defended the shit out of it.
So it says in the chat, does it stop jousting? I hate this argument. Like, what do you guys think getting past your target is? Like, if you outposition someone, like you get around them an angle, they're going to break that by trying to push through. Like, jousting's only bad if we're talking like 2 to 3k ranges, but some people describe jousting as a bad thing when it's like within 500 meters. No, that's positional combat, boys. Like, as long as you're fighting at those angles and you're getting past each other immediately, having to flip using like the best rotation rates and all this stuff. I know I'm talking jumbo, but I have an issue when people describe jousting as the biggest issue, because it's not. Jousting means at least you can push. Now you can't push a lot of the time because the guy just backs up. When you're pushing, you end up going down the river and no one has any position. You're just trying to aim at each other's pip. That's the worst part about master modes. I wish there was more jousting.
Up until now. So it clearly isn't in a very good state.
No.
Right?
And I mainly blame the lack of iteration to flight and the many changes to the weaponry. Like, the new weaponry has now made flight even worse than it already was, which was a huge problem. And that 95 to 5% ratio is exactly what I'm talking about. These new guns made guns even more powerful, and now flight is even less important and, you know, not relevant. So
if somebody who thinks it foundationally is a good idea, and again, it has fixed a lot of issues, but it's created some of its own, right? So you can't ignore that either. And a lot of people are addressing the issues that it has created, not the ones that it's fixing. Going a bit further on this from my dev POV, it was extremely important to get all the Squadron 42 tech concerning master modes, aiming, ship retunings, etc. into 323. And this was not just his decision. This was clearly Richard Tyrer's. We saw that on SCL. Doing this all in one quarter was very challenging, and we said multiple times that 323 won't be the Combat Jesus patch, and that there should not be an expectation of a perfectly balanced game. Nobody's asking about that. I don't think in the stuff that I'm seeing. The stuff that I'm seeing, people think that is a fundamentally bad change. It was too much.
The problem is, though, is the imbalances get in way of the feedback. Like, that's the problem right now, like, that I have with a lot of it, right? Is that I can't give good feedback because ships like the F8, the Hornet Mark II, the Drake Buccaneer even, has made giving feedback extremely difficult when they're snuffing out the experience. So I do agree, though, like, it's absolutely, you know, we're not expecting this to be done, but I do feel like it's gotten worse. Like, the introduction of these weapons have made things worse, without a doubt. Like, shared by my entire organization, and maybe not the broader game community, but this does feel worse. And it's the weapons to blame.
Content for the...
And mind you, they had to get the weapons working. They had to deliver something. The cannons had to come, so did the railguns, so did the shotguns. They had to get introduced. They couldn't just get rid of them. But they have taken away from MM instead of added to it or supplemented it. And they've reinforced and bulkened the issue that is, it is primarily weapons and almost nothing to do with flight. Like, and I completely stand behind those figures. It's 95% guns right now, and it's 5% flight. And it needs to be 70% flight, 30% guns.
Team size that we have. So while there's a certain risk to push a feature out early, the simple truth here is that it also saves time further down the line. First of all, the features get a lot of exposure to players, which gives us more feedback and useful game analytics. Second, it saves internally a lot of maintenance time, as we don't need to care anymore about.
Yeah, the team size sucks. Like, it sucks that they're, struggling with resources and staff that can put together, combat and flight in space in a spaceship MMO that's worth $700 million. You'd think this team would be 40, 50 people deep. It should be. So it does suck that, they've got such little resources for sure.
Legacy system. So we opted for the variant to be bold and get the stuff into players' hands earlier, earlier than keeping it to develop without feedback. There you go. So this is very similar to their communication around replication layer and the fact that this patch is going to suck. Stability wise, it's going to suck. Master modes is going to suck. And this patch is just...
I think master modes will work all right in the PU. If you're not going into the PU to dogfight 1v1. I think it's going to be more the competitive experience that hurts from master modes. But I think in the PU, it's probably going to be fine because you don't need the game to perform or the flight model to be stretched to the limitations that you do for competitive play, mainly because the PU isn't as competitive. It just ain't, guys. It absolutely ain't. The tick rate's way lower. The players are way further apart. The competitive community is spread across all these different servers. You rarely run into them. There's not many bridging mechanics to bring competitive gameplay together. So the PU is a very... a lot less demanding from, stretching the limits or skill. So you're not going to see it. But where those environments like Arena Commando, Squadron Battle, and Battle Royale, and Free Flight Dueling or 1v1 aspects, that's where it's going to suck the most. So to be honest, I'm looking forward to the PU. Because I want to experience the bunkers. I want to experience big battles. I want to go up against some organizations. I want to get some payback on some organizations. I want a PvP. I want to make content for sure. And I think that the PU will be a lot better for having master modes. But it does suffer the same issues that the competitive gameplay does. But not as brutally, I guess. But it's got to get better. Still has to get better.
It's generally going to suck. And I have a hard time arguing as a non-combat enjoyer that this is a bad decision. So for people who generally PvP a lot, this patch is going to suck.
Yep.
Just like anybody who wants to play the game is generally going to suck.
Yeah, I wonder if he's like referring to the people that are calling for MM to not be released. I think those people are ridiculous. It has to come. I do not want it to be delayed. I want it in our hands as quickly as possible so we can get iterated and just let's move on and get this thing looking a lot better. Let's add some depth, add some skilling, raise the ceiling of possibility, and just start attacking this thing with development as much as possible. Yeah, like I want that. None of this pussing around and stalling and putting it on pause. No way.
Right? In terms of stability, and then you don't get what you want out of PvP or whatever. So based on that, I'm summing up my own feelings like this. I'm very happy with the progress of Master Modes in 3.23 because this is the dev speaking. It was very hard. We got it in and it quote unquote works, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
and they're to be commended for getting interdiction working, getting this into the PU, the quantum jumping, like the interaction with the UI, the new UI changes to combat are really great. I think they need a little bit more work, but they're really great. A lot of these changes were good, and a lot of this was like the the not popular stuff, right? Like I mentioned, quantum jumping around planets and spooling and nav times and all, and the master mode's mechanic working on all the ships and all that jazz. They got it in good, and it's compatible with the PU. That's great. It's not just an arena commander mode now, so that they need to be commended for all of that. But yeah, it's the tuning and all that stuff that we want to see improve.
Good enough state to offer better
I'm
gameplay.
glad that it's in. I'm glad that 323 is going to have sensible, reasonable combat at reasonable speeds and ranges now. Like, that is a huge win for us regardless. A huge win. The fact that we're going to be able to pick ships that haven't been the same best ships for the last 4 years. Now you're going to have options. Like, I don't even want to reveal to you guys what ships we just purchased with 400 million UEC as our organization, because we're trying to keep it a secret. So like it's interesting again for sure. Experimenting is back. Discovery is back. Research and development when it comes to ship compositions and ship loadouts is back. These are good things, but it's the gameplay itself at a high level. When it gets stretched to its limits, that's what needs to be completely redone, in my opinion.
Experience compared to 322. It fixes some of the issues for 322.
Yes, it does.
It is arguable if this is a better gameplay experience. Yet, it was a huge challenge to pull all that tech in the PU, and almost all of the ships are now in a better relationship.
And they need to be
exactly good. I am not happy with the overall state of master modes, or shall we say the flight and combat experience, as we have not hit all the markers that we wanted to hit. So that is the most important thing.
Yep.
He is not happy, and he puts it in bold. I am not happy either.
Yep.
Right? I am not happy either. For you to say it's 100% not as fun, I will say it is more fun to somebody like me, because I notice I hit my...
Yeah, and this is a good example, right? This is that it's great for the 10, 20, 30-hour experience, and then past it, it falls off like Battlefield. It's like once you've experienced it, once you've gotten a taste of it, and you know what that gameplay is like, you can't push any further boundaries. You can't stretch it to any further limits. You have nothing to be creative with, nothing to change, no different play style to adapt to. Like you don't have to try and look at what better equipment could you have, whether it's hardware like joystick stuff like that. Like it just there's not much more depth past the 20-hour experience, but it's great at capturing you for the first 20 hours. It really is good when you first get your hands on it, but the long-term journey, I think, it is really suffering.
My shots more often, and I see those shots hitting. It's visually appealing. I'm able to hit more often,
which is what we want. We wanted to introduce PvP to more people.
But I understand that what feels good for me may not be good for the overall combat experience.
No, it's great. It's great for Mike, and it's great for people that are less experienced. But if they decide to stay in this realm of combat instead of just dabble in it now and then, that's when it's going to become an issue, because it's like, again, I love to use this term, it's like the Battlefield experience perfectly. Like, how can you compare fighting a fighter jet in DCS to a fighter jet in Battlefield? In Battlefield, it's an arcade experience. It's just like ridiculous, right? Like it's nothing alike. But then you hop in DCS and it's got the depth of the Mariana Trench. We just want, it doesn't have to be as deep as DCS, okay? It doesn't. And I don't want to DCS nerds typing in the comments, okay? I get it. But it's got to get a lot deeper than the shallow experience that is dogfighting right now. Dogfighting is what sucks right now, boys. That's the best way to put it. Dogfighting needs to get better. That's the best way to put it. Should have used that earlier.
Just because it feels good for me doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, and Mike would not describe himself as a dogfighter, would he?
And that's the thing, is people take their own anecdotes and...
It's like, the dogfighters are the ones that are disappointed in it. The people that dogfight, like Avenger, who plays a lot. The PvP community that dogfight each other, right? That PvP against each other. These are the guys that are having an issue and are very critical about the change, because dogfighting in live was a lot better, and in my opinion was a lot better than what we have now in the current MM iteration with the new weapons. In the live 322 master modes, experimental modes. But that's the problem, is dogfighting PvP has to get better at a deeper level. You know, and it doesn't have to accumulate to power, but it's just going to get it deeper.
Make them as fact that means that the overall game is good. So I respect people that don't think it's good. And again, everybody should be sharing their opinions.
But we're in a better place
everywhere,
now.
all the time about this game. Feedback. That's the only thing we should be doing. And your opinions, whether they're positive or negative, should not be received negatively because somebody doesn't necessarily agree with them. We need to be saying what we think, and we need to have this community has to stop muting people and telling them that they're wrong because your anecdote feels different than theirs. They're just putting their opinion out there. You put yours out there, and we see what happens.
Yep.
And that's how it has to be. There is way too much like people pushing off the people who feel that master mode sucks, and there's way too much pushing people that think it's good as well, or just in anything. Like any positivity in the game sometimes gets shoved away by like people in my community, right? Oh, they're just white knight, or oh, they're high on copium, right? We gotta listen to everybody, and we gotta hear things. Because I looked at that thread on, like, there's a huge thread on master modes, and the first thing I thought is this shit's getting brigaded. But that doesn't mean that the things that are being posted in there aren't legitimate.
What's funny is you would expect the PvPers to be brigading a negative master modes feedback thread, and I like to think I've got a good finger on the pulse when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I haven't seen them. I have not seen any organized brigading from anyone. So that might have been organic, unless there's another community I'm not aware of.
It doesn't. So,
like, I don't think my organization's even aware of a thread like that Mike's talking about. I doubt we're even in it. I don't think I've heard that discussed once on Discord.
Whether there's 500 people that agree and 800 upvoted because they were using alts, doesn't mean it's not valid feedback, right? The only way it would not be valid feedback is if they didn't play and they posted that feedback, right? The only way it would not be valid feedback is if they posted it. And
maybe it was non-English
like, I watched
communities.
Avenger 1 and I am parroting things that he said. Then it's not valid feedback. And I don't know if they have analytics to be able to see that.
Oh, maybe they're talking about the Tirada thread, which would be the French community.
Probably impossible. So anyway, he's not happy. And just to make it clear that we hear players, here's some of the issues we'd like to approach. Some of them are from our own list. Others come directly from player feedback. Some from both, in no particular order. Snub fighters are not really where they need to be. I wonder what he
Yeah, good. They're
means
just
by that.
annoying, laggy, hard to hit, dorky. Ugh, you know what I am, boys. Delete snub fighters. Let me know in the comments if you want snub fighters deleted. All right, because you are a connoisseur, sir, and I shall look after you. All right, fuck snub fighters, boys. I say this playfully, okay? Not really, okay? I don't mean any of this, but fuck snub fighters.
Too good or too bad? I don't know. LFs are now too weak. Light fighters.
Yeah, light fighters suck now. They do. The worst archetype in the game, boys. That's where it is. The ships that are based on trying to do positional combat can't do any positional combat because of flight, and now they're weak. So it's like the agility class has no agility, therefore is weak. So agility classes, like the light fighter, needs more agility.
Are now too weak. 1v1 dogfights are lacking.
They absolutely are lacking. 1v1 dogfights are very neutral. They're just like whatever. They're very meh. Just the race to see who can land the amount of cannon shots required. There's no position. There's no angle. There's no creativity. It's just who can Kobe into the hoop the 8 balls it takes to win. Yeah, it's just... Yeah, there's nothing to 1v1 dogfighting right now. There's nothing. They work. It is achievable. People definitely die in a 1v1 now. But there's nothing else to it. It has got the depth of a couple drops. You know, there's not I wouldn't even call it a puddle. It's shallower than that.
Ability to evade shots.
Yeah, the ability to evade shots non-existent. Weapon speeds are too high. They're too easy. The capacitors are 2 replenishing. There's just no evasion. Offense is the only king right now.
Adding jerk back to IFCS, trying out an egg-shaped velocity
I just never the jerk back to IFCS. I don't know.
space to suppress.
Trying out an egg-shaped velocity space to suppress backstrafing. I don't know if this is gonna solve it, because it's just too easy to drift. It's too easy to walk away from the fight while shooting at your opponent than it is to push. I'm hopeful that the egg-shaped velocity space will help allow for pushing, but I have concerns. But the biggest one is, like, when they talk about egg-shaped velocity space, understand that they're talking about buffing forward or nerfing the laterals. Because a lot of the problem right now is that the laterals are so strong top speed-wise that going forward doesn't arrest your lateral momentum. So if you're like strafing to the left and you're shooting at a guy, you start going forward, it just means your left, the fact that you're drifting to the left is going to start creeping forward. It never pushes you forward and out of your left. It doesn't slow down your left in order to go forward. Hopeful, maybe the egg will work in this regard. I'm not sure, but I think this 2-speed boost system is a huge issue, and we're going to find out. Hopefully the egg helps things.
Backstrafing, iterating on the AI to make it less hit perfect when we want. Teaching the AI to not overly rely on backstrafing.
The AI's backstrafing, boys.
Full times,
hilarious.
ESP, not
and it's good. Someone made a comment in our Discord today. It was Galoith. He said that it's great that the AI are backstrafing because now they can resolve the issue of backstrafing for both the PvE and PvP players. And now the PvE players are also understanding of this issue with our flight geometry right now. It's like, if AI is backstrafing to players, and it's a problem for both departments. And it also shows you what the skill ceiling is. If an AI is difficult because it's backstrafing, then that's great, because it shows the issue with backstrafing. And a lot of people always criticize us, oh, you guys just complain about backstrafing. And then some people accuse us of backstrafing as if we're the org that doesn't tell our guys to press W the entire time. But yeah, like I appreciate that the AI are doing it. It might be a good thing for the game.
not being as good as it needs to be. Turret ESP being somewhat wacky on stick.
All right, sorry. Iterating on the nav and SCM spool times. Yeah, so cooldown and retreat stuff. I actually kind of like the new navs, because it kind of makes bringing a mantis or interdiction mandatory. I kind of like them to a degree, maybe a little too fast, but it does feel like it's less of an ugly experience being stuck in SCM, and that you can try to escape. Maybe they could buff missiles. Maybe they could add some sort of mechanics like taking damage would slow down the spool or add some time to the cast time, something like that. But I am a fan of them being a little faster than that originally was in live. ESP not being as good as it needs to be. Yeah, they've broken ESP, boys. They've reworked ESP. ESP is shocking. I'll rant here, okay? Despite so much protest on our Discord, they changed ESP and forced its dampening upon us all. Which means that you can no longer bend ESP to your will and to your control scheme, which I'll tell you guys is so bad for the game. The nose authority aiming experience is the worst it's ever been in this game. It has not done anything good. It has made flying a ship extremely frustrating. And ESP is a mystery, boys. It is the Da Vinci Code of this game. So to see them act so carelessly, enforcing settings upon players not knowing the issues of people have mouse or mice that weigh different amounts. People have joysticks that are metal, plastic, that are sitting upright, that have tension, that have clutches, that have bumps in the middle. Pedals, they have different strafes and axes on different control schemes. ESP, we need that creativity to bend to our control scheme, but to force it upon people for the sake of simplicity, ESP is not a good enough mechanic to do that. And because of that, it's now broken as shit. And you're not only going to feel it's broken if you know what good ESP is like. Otherwise, you're just going to log into master modes and it's going to suck. Or aiming at things, aiming at players, it's going to be frustrating. That is, you could blame that on the ESP changes and the oversteer that they've added. The oversteer they've tuned up for all the ships, meaning how horrible it feels to aim at things, how heavy the nose of your ship feels. That's oversteer. A combination of those two things has just made the game so unenjoyable when it comes to controlling your ship. But yeah, this ESP change, dreadful. It felt very disconnected. It felt like they don't even understand how ESP works themselves. And I tell you what, like, we've mastered it because all we do is change our ESP settings constantly for the last 2 years to find the best values for us individually. And I'll tell you, no one in our org has the same ESP. So just this ESP was just such an obvious bad move. And it's frustrating that they did that. And that we're worse off for it. And ESP, you could have taken that if they didn't do what they did. You could have taken that line off and ESP wouldn't have been a problem. And it could have been made simpler later down the track. But instead, they decided to rush it in with 323 for no reason but to make things simpler. And instead, they made things broken. So frustrating. That was a definite L for the development team. Just such a bad idea. Stressed it to them. I was very much against it, and now we pay the price. It's the same like with this pitch meta that we're in. With pitch, the game is horrible on the nose. It feels so bad to control and aim your ship because the speed from pitch is drastically different. The 45s are gone. There's no equalizer. It's very bad. Like, some of these changes, like they're very reckless with making the nose experience bad. And name a single game, FPS style or whatever, where taking control and purposely unbalancing the experience of controlling your mouse or aim device at a target is ever good. It's never good. Like, that has to be the one aspect of the game that a player can have real control of. Like, I think that the aim experience needs to be smooth and great for everybody, and everything else can be changed and have weight to it and excessive and unbalanced and difficult to master. But just controlling the nose of your ship should not be difficult, I think.
Make the piloting combat less about aim and more about flight. Bang, right onto the tweet from one of the best pilots in the game. Right there.
Yep.
Less about aim, more about flight. Addressing that.
I don't like how he keeps calling me best player, but which I'm not. Making the pilot combat less aim, yeah. And again, 95% aim, 5% flight right now. Those are the numbers I stand behind for sure. That's the issue.
Tweet right there. Aiming system networking not performing well enough. Issues with certain mining and south.
The aiming system networking not performing well enough, maybe that's ESP, but I've never felt like there's been any issues with aiming at anyone when networking's involved, so I'm not sure what that is.
Salvaging ships not being able to use gimbals from cockpit seats. Issues with G-force zoom effects being inconsistent. Specific ship tunings that feel out of whack. Redeemer, Saber. There was a huge
the Saber's still dead.
Thread about the Redeemer. That was...
I don't like why people complain about the Redeemer being weak in multi-crew. It's a huge gunship. It's supposed to take on ships bigger than it. I don't think you're supposed to be swinging a turret with those gigantic guns at arrows and snubcraft. So, mind you, I haven't multi-crewed the Redeemer, okay? So forgive me if it is really as bad as it is. But I always understood the Redeemer as being something that punches bigger. Like, Redeemers go up against Hammerheads and Idrises and stuff. I just never thought they'd be used to go after fighters, which I thought was the complaint, but I never invested in it. And the Saber, yeah, bring back the Saber, obviously, please.
Totally valid, right? Iterating, and people were telling this guy to shut up. You know what I mean? Like, this is the fucking community we have. It's a joke. It's actually a joke. Right? And you can see, I think that there's a guy, Heim Delight or something, right?
Oh God, don't bring him up.
Enthusiast, loves it.
Dude, he does. Yeah, he's on Twitter. Heimdelight is like, he just flies the Cutlass Black and calls himself a PvPer. Like, he doesn't compete in any aspect, and like he does FPS. Ugh. Dude's a dork, such a dork.
Constantly spamming shit.
Just like the greasy cleasy of FPS. Just this guy's just text PvP 24/7. Oh, he's so painful. Don't bring him up.
Does that mean his opinion doesn't matter?
Yep.
No. It just means that he's being annoying.
He is annoying.
And that's the worry, is that sometimes the way people give feedback is annoying. And they get tuned out because they're being annoying. I don't think Heim is getting tuned out, by the way. But I think the community tunes out players. And I think the dev team is made up of humans that will also tune out players. Right? And that starts to become the problem. People definitely tune out my feedback because I'm an asshole. Right? It's all the same. But you as an individual can and should tune out my feedback. Them as developers should never tune out feedback. Right? Gaming communities on the internet are awful everywhere. It won't change because rage gets clicks. No, because people take video games really seriously. Rage does not get clicks. It's such a joke. At least in this community, rage doesn't get clicks. Positivity does. But the thing about the people who are like raging a lot is that I worry that the devs ignore them because they're raging a lot and they're like, oh, that guy again. Right? But in reality, if that guy made a good argument, which Heim Delight, Greasy, other people who arguably, like, I mean, these are people that have said horrible fucking things about me. Heim Delight especially. That doesn't mean that their opinions shouldn't be heard. And I hope that they are, right? Because it doesn't matter. If those people play the game a lot.
No, they don't. They don't, though. Like, Greasy, Cleese, and Hybridlight have not been in Master Mode's experimental mode once. Not one time. Not one single time.
Their
true,
feedback
it's
matters.
true. No one's ever seen them.
Right? Yeah, if Rage got clicks, Gem Reviews would be the biggest Star Citizen content creator, but he's not. So, where do we stop? Specific ship tunings out of whack, iterating with speed walls and ship tunings in general, missiles flying way too fast for Master Mode's tuning, integration of flight mechanics.
Okay, so iterating with the speed walls and ship tunings. Yeah, so the boost system, the 2-speed system, that's the big one. I look forward to, I think the game could become the best game ever with changes to the speed walls and the boosted system, because then you're capturing some of the best aspects of live and adding them to the framework that is master modes. So I just banged my mic there, sorry, but adding it to the framework that's master modes, then you're capturing both, I think. So how they decide to handle boost and the speed walls, which is the ceilings of speed inside of SCM, I think will make or break PvP and could potentially be a great thing if they do it right. Skeptical to think they will, but hopefully they do. This was flying
geometry.
way too fast for MM tuning. Yeah, probably. I'm barely aware. Like, I get launched missiles at, I try to flare them off. I don't really look at their speeds and stuff, so don't know. And then the integration of the flight mechanics and combat geometry with RN. What is RN? With right now? With, I don't know. Anyways, integration of the flight mechanics and combat geometry. Yeah, obviously.
Geometry with RN.
What is RN?
Resource Network. Thank you.
Ah, Resource Network. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. As you can see here, there's a lot of stuff related to flight and combat experience that needs to be addressed. Once that has happened, we might consider making a video. But that point is not now. And even when we reach it, I'd say that our content creators will do a much better job than us. Bunch of devs working on flight and combat. So, like, also saying, like, hey, we hear the content creators is too.
Wait, what is this? So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff related to the flight and combat experience that needs to be addressed. Once it has happened, we might consider making a video, but at that point, it's not now. And even when we reach it, I'd still say that our content creators will do a much better job than us devs working on flight and combat. Oh, he's talking about in regards to, like, feedback and where we're at. Okay. I thought it was a solid jab at content creators, but yeah, fair enough. Look, I have faith in that team. I do. And they had to fix the things that weren't about PvP, which was the speed ceilings, the fitting of all the archetypes, getting multi-crew and stuff. Like, you would never, if you were to take us back in time 9 months before was in our hands, and you were to say, ask the PvP community, what do they want? They would have told you 100 different things, but they wouldn't have told you, hey, we need master modes, we need multi-crew to work and function, we need heavy fighters to be part of the big picture and immediately competitive in PvP. Like, those boxes were not going to be the complaints of the PvP community. They were going to complain about the dogfighting aspect. Now, Master Modes has fixed a lot of the issues that weren't dogfighting at a simplistic level. So, meaning multi-crew can now function. It needs buffs, it needs work, I understand it, but it can compete at least. Yeah, it can at least compete. Don't get mad at me. I do know it needs a lot of buffing. It needs to get a lot better, okay? But it's at least a part of the discussion. Heavy fighters, medium fighters are now part of the discussion. The Buccaneer, for God's sake, is actually competitive. Good things that the PvP community wouldn't have cared about as much because they're in the specifics of dogfighting. Now, in introducing all of that and rebuilding the framework to accommodate for those parts of the game where we needed the speeds to be reduced so that the fights kept within reasonable ranges that allowed for more archetypes to compete, they've hurt the dogfighting experience. And by hurt, I mean they completely dismantled it and broken it. But if they're going to rebuild back up dogfighting, then I'm happy. And I think that they can do it. And I think that they're listening to feedback. I think that this reply definitely was some honesty, and we appreciate that, and some transparency on where they felt they fell short. And that's great. That's commendable that they're willing to even acknowledge that publicly. But it's got to get there. Yeah. At the end of the day, it still has to get there. And when it does, we can kiss their feet, celebrate, and all get drunk at CitizenCon together. Yeah, absolutely. But it's got to get there because, you know, it could be the best space game ever. The PvP could be out of this world. It could be something with real depth. It could be something that people make content with, that people show off their skills with, that people compete against each other with, that captivates you when you're watching someone stream it or videos. Content creators can make guides on it. Like, I want all these things. I don't want it to be as shallow in an arcade experience. I want it to have real depth. I want this to be such a high skill ceiling. I want the skill ceiling to be so fucking high, but I want it to be welcoming and easy to get into. Yeah, so the skill floor low so that you can get in nice and early and immediately be useful and have fun. But I want you to be able to push this thing to limits and limits and limits. Yeah, like, I want to be teaching people to dogfight. I want to, you know, be competitive and discovering new things and trying to be creative constantly, not a 20-hour experience that I feel it is right now.
Because, yeah, I guess
because then it ticks it for everyone, right? Like, everyone can be happy with master modes. At the end of the day, everyone can be happy with it. It just needs so many more layers, but everyone can have what they want. The casual players that, you know, only play a little bit, I hear you. You got to be a part of it too. You have to be effective as well. But you got to give these guys also that want to keep playing it and only play this game. They don't just play Star Citizen with 10 other games, or they're playing it super casually. So because they're playing it more than casually, that they should just be thrown aside in the name of casual gameplay. No, it should have depth. It should be so deep, but it should also be welcoming.
But
it should be useful early.
That sounds like a really good response to the hate around master modes.
There we go.
But I do think some people are worried that master modes is fundamentally broken, where they do not. I think if this is on their list, they think that they can fix those things. We'll see. So A1's flight model is better, he admits? No, he doesn't. They literally were on a podcast together and said no. It's a huge list. So how many years for this list is a good question.
Yep.
Right? But I think that's a great post and a great way to deal with the community. And again, I think we as a community have to stop shitting on people who are passionate in whatever way they end up being passionate about. Right? And I think we just need to let people speak and stop trying to silence them.
Yeah, I agree. He'll talk to his chat for the rest of the video. But yeah, no, that's how I feel about it, boys. I'm happy with the framework. I'm happy with the overall picture. I'm happy with the grand scheme of master modes and what's going to immediately deliver to the game. I'm very, very happy with. But dogfighting sucks. And it's got to get way, way better, way deeper, way more flight, a lot less weapons. That's where I'm at with it, boys, okay? Again, supportive of MM. I am on the Hopium train, okay? I back the team, absolutely. But dogfighting's got to get way, way better than that. You know, I could have made, and I should have made a video summarizing my new opinions on master modes. And people give me shit for this, right? They're like, oh, you know, you were originally so pro master modes. Yeah, I still am. But this is what's crazy is people like say I'm like condescending and flipping sides and stuff. No, they reintroduced all these weapons and all these ships. Master modes in comparison to the live iteration to where we are now are two different beasts entirely. My opinion can change when the entire flight model and weaponry and time to kill and the entire experience of master modes drastically shifts from 322 to 323. An opinion can change, yeah? Like, it's so dorky. Like, people sound like such dorks when they complain that you weren't supportive of them the whole time. Where I'm still supportive of them, okay? Like, I'm still want this thing. But if the train is going in a worse direction or the flight model is getting arguably worse with new introductions, I'm going to speak up against it, yeah? Like, I'm going to give honest feedback because it's me, okay, who's putting in hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on testing this thing. Like, our organization's probably done like 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours in master modes in the like 323 iteration alone. Like, every night there's 10 to 20 dudes in there just doing master modes for like 5 hours a day, you know? Like, so, you know, it's so crazy. Like, people make these character assassinations because your opinion changed when the entire flight model changed, like where the entire gameplay changed. Ridiculous. But there's my rant, yeah. I gotta get off Twitter. Shit, I gotta get off Twitter. Anyways, boys, there we go. That's it. Had fun with it. We stretched it to an hour. I didn't think it was, but I had a lot to vent since I hadn't made a master modes video in a while, aside from the podcast. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I look forward to making actual game content with the release of 323. It's been nice to be playing more casually lately, but I'm definitely getting the itch to play more. And mind you, me taking a break from Star Citizen still looks like 2 hours a night, by the way. But yeah, we will see. Okay, what an interesting video this turned out to be. 1, 2, 3. If you got this far, yeah. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the comments. I'll get better at replying to comments. I've just been very busy. GG's. I'll see you guys in the next one.